Whenever you make a selection, Refine Edge should be the last thing you do before you commit to using that selection somewhere. In this document, I've saved a selection for you, and I used the Quick Selection tool, this one, and took less than 2 minutes to make a quick selection of Spider-Man and his web. So under the Select menu, I'll choose Load Selection, and you'll see the only channel there, or saved selection, is Spider-Man. When I click OK, you'll see the marching ants around Spider-Man. And before I run Refine Edge, I'm going to zoom in twice. Now I'll choose from my Select menu, Refine Edge. Since I was on the Move tool, it doesn't show up on the Options bar here, but if you're on any selection tool, you'll see a button for Refine Edge. I'll choose Select Refine Edge, and I'm going to scoot this over on top of my panel so I can explain the dialog. Right now, I'm viewing on white, so it's really tricky to see what's happened. But if I choose View and Reveal Layer, this was the original photographer's background. In fact, there's just pieces of paper under his feet. If I were to accept the settings right now, that's what he would look like on a layer. But if I go to black and white, you could see a silhouette. This is great. He could be any superhero. If you take away the web and ignore the 3-finger salute that he does when he shoots his web, he's got a nice muscular action hero figure. I do see in my selection I may have gotten a little too much of his shoe, but let's take a look at that. On white won't show a lot, but the highlight on his silver shoe must have been picked up on that white background, so there may or may not be data there. It might be lost detail, and I'll let it go for now. But on black, you can really see a little bit more of the edge and a little bit of the haloing around the outside. So let's imagine we do want to put him on a comic book cover, and we want to put it on a black background. Now the white highlight is trickier to get rid of, but my goal is to show you what Refine Edge will do. And I chose a superhero or an action figure that was plastic intentionally. I wanted to show smoothing. If I slide radius up first, radius is the first setting that I use for people, it does blend away that white halo and look better. But I'm starting to get a little bit of drop-off. Sorry, my mouse is going too fast. But a little bit of drop-off in his head. This is turning clear or transparent. So as I slide radius down, I get more of the halo, but less removal of the head. Let's leave radius at its default setting of 0. Smoothing is very helpful for cars or inanimate objects, things with nice sharp edges that could be rounded or smoothed. So if I dial smoothing up, it helps prevent that jagginess along the edge of the selection. Let me put it back at 0, and I'll zoom in with Command plus or Control plus, and you can see the jagginess right here. As I dial smoothing up, it just blends that away. So I use this on all objects. But I don't want the edge to get too rounded. I still want it to stay sharp and crisp. So if I slide contrast up, it gives me a much sharper edge with nice, smooth roundness or smoothness to the shape. So in objects, I always use some smoothing and some contrast. And if I shift the edge to the negative a bit, it'll start taking away that white halo or outline that I'm getting. And now if I zoom out with Command minus or Control minus, I can hit Show Original. That's where it was when I opened the dialog. Turn it off. That's what my smoothing, contrast, and shifting edge has done. I could combine a little radius into that, but this is going to grow into the object too much and actually wipe out his rope. So as I said, with objects, I tend to not use radius. I only use smoothing and contrast. And if I've shifted the edge too much inside, I could bring some of the rope back by dialing that up. Ultimately, he'll end up on his own layer, And if there is more of the foot I still have, I could use the Erase Refinements tool and erase over the little corner of the foot to see if I can keep it there. I think it was blown out in the original shot. So I'm just going to click OK to go back to a selection. Zoom in a little bit. And I do have a little foot there. So this is when the lasso will help you. I'll just go to Add to Selection and start well inside the shoe and just include back in a circular motion that part of the foot. Now Spider-Man can be broken into his own layer. So I'll double click on background and name it Spider-Man. Click OK. And to get him on his own layer and wipe out that background, I'm going to hit the button to add a layer mask. And if I fit on screen or in window, everything in the checkerboard or transparent area is gone or technically clear. I could drop a new photo in the background, or I could just put a solid color in the background. And let's finish off with that. So I will choose Layer, New Layer, and I'll call it Solid. If you know the color, you can give the name of the color to the layer. Now I'll drag the solid color below Spider-Man so the color I pick will go underneath him or behind him technically. And I think today I'll just choose a greenish tone. So maybe a darker green. You could sample anywhere in the color rainbow, and when you land on one you like, we'll fill with that color. So I will choose Edit, Fill with foreground color. Click OK. There he is on a brand new background. I could add shadows and other things, but our goal was to see how to use Refine Edge on objects. So see if you can work through this exercise and experiment with those dials in the Refine Edge dialog until you get the best selection. Also, feel free to clean up my selection before you run Refine Edge to get a better job. Sometimes I like to leave these things in here to show you how you could use the lasso tool just to add a tiny bit to the selected area to end up with the best isolated Spider-Man.